You know them, you probably aren't too fond of them, and there seems to be a never-ending supply of their incredibly valuable opinions. Of course I'm talking about Brony haters. From lurking on YouTube comments to straight up hate messages. Haters thrive on the reactions of those that they provoke, and take a particular sense of satisfaction when it comes to getting a rise out of the Brony community. Now many have asked me, how do I deal with haters and trolls? Actually, it's quite simple. All you have to do is aim for the throat. But seriously though, I'm gonna try my best to arm you all with the knowledge of handling situations that might involve our aggressive friends. This is How to Brony, dealing with haters and trolls. Before diving into this potential hornet's nest of a topic, I need to clarify why I'm addressing this issue. For one, it is something that many Bronies encounter on a daily basis, so it's somewhat relevant. Next, there are some aspects of sociology hidden within this topic, and that is always worth a closer look. Finally, and this is more of a personal belief, but I think it would do the Brony community some good if we revised a thing or two in our unwritten constitution. So that being said, let's jump into our first bullet point. Why do haters hate? This is a very broad question, but it's pretty essential in our case study. In order to unlock the answer, one must examine an individual and take note of how he or she acts, feels, and thinks. After documenting those characteristics, you then go back and study the different types of influences that may have shaped that particular person's life. The process in which that individual is indoctrinated by society is referred to as socialization. This term is shared in the academic fields of political science, psychology, and sociology, and is a huge factor in determining a person's thought process and actions. Or simply put, it's how an individual is programmed to think. Now, humans are very unique when compared to the rest of the creatures on Earth. I don't mean that because we have rocket ships, robots, or Slurpee machines, but mainly for the reason that we have very few innate skills. Sea turtles, for example, instinctively know where to lay their eggs, while ants naturally follow the will of the colony without question. A human, on the other hand, relies on cognitive learning from its family and friends during its youth and well into adulthood. Basically, how a person acts is solely attributed to that individual's family, friends, and cultural influences. The phrase, "don't judge a person until you walked a mile in their shoes," comes to mind. Many of the haters we see and hear from have radical points of view that most likely stem from their own values and fundamentals. This in part was seeded into their minds by their family and friends, and this is due to the environment in which people live in. Let me clarify with a few examples. A southerner from Alabama thinks very differently than a New Yorker. A Catholic from the Vatican won't see eye to eye with a Muslim from Iran. And a white child raised in the suburbs will think very differently than an African American raised in the city. Different environments, different families and friends. All this means, and you guessed it, different points of view. The point I'm trying to get across is this. The opinions of others that you may encounter could potentially run very deep. These ideals were planted into the mind of that individual long ago, and that leaves very little room for compromise. Now, Bronies, in a lot of ways, rock the boat and really shake up fundamentalists in society. This is most commonly seen in news reports. Correspondents sometimes view social change as a threat to mainstream society and their community values. The civil rights movement is a good example in this regard. Black Americans fought tooth and nail for equal treatment, but white Southern culture, which believed that their way of life was being infringed upon, resisted stalwartly. At the end, the peaceful methods of the protesters were victorious, as the national government supported equal treatment in all states. Am I saying that Bronies have reached the same magnitude as the civil rights movement? Good heavens, no. But we do share some common traits. Now, the chances of the government supporting Bronies are pretty unlikely, but I am working on it. Okay, time to wrap this section up. Point 1. The family and friends of an individual have a drastic effect on how they might think. Such points of views are incredibly tough to persuade and to compromise with. Point 2. The culture of a society dictates how people think and feel overall. The most important fundamentals and values of a society derive from this, and set up a social standard that can be almost impossible to break. Point 3. How a person thinks and feels may run deeper than it appears, and cannot be changed by a petty argument. And finally, point 4. Humans are cognitive learners. That means there's hope to influence others and to find a peaceful resolution, but that will be addressed later on. In essence, all of what I'm trying to say could be summed up into one sentence. People don't like being infringed upon, and are very resistant to said change. So we were able to explain why a hater thinks the way he or she does. But what about the question of how they react specifically? As I mentioned before, the civil rights movement was met with staunch opposition. Southerners were not about to give up their way of life, and were prepared to resist African Americans. The protesters, though, were organized, strong, and just as determined to see their way through. State laws were created in the South to inhibit the freedom of African Americans, while protesters suffered from harsh language, brutal beatings, and even murder. Bronies, in comparison, come nowhere close to suffering the same fates of the civil rights protesters. But we do get a fair share of criticism and harsh words. Cue the montage! As you can see, we get a variety of brutal slurs thrown our way. Let's pick at some of the more common insults. I'm going to start off with the most relevant one of all, being called gay. Homosexuality has been persecuted for the longest time, and still faces harsh criticism even in modern society. Once again, I direct you to conflicting fundamentals in groups of people. The word itself is commonly used by teenage boys, and is pretty much the only adjective that they know. When used, the hater normally deploys the word to insinuate the brony for being feminine and unmanly, though this is mainly a matter of opinion. Yes, gender roles are very much so relevant, but the lines are starting to blur. There are ladies who work in offices, and stay-at-home fathers who watch the kids. What we are going through are the growing pains of society becoming more equal, and we are part of the solution. So whenever I am told that I'm a gay, faggot, homosexual who likes pink ponies, I laugh because the insult itself has lost meaning to me. In fact, I take pride in being a vessel for social change. And that's coming from a straight guy who loves the ladies. That's right, Pegasisters. I'll make sure to leave my Skype info in the description box just for you. And by the by, gay bronies are a blast to talk to. They're no more different than you or myself. The next insult bronies usually face is being called a furry. Go ahead and take a knee, guys. We need to discuss some key points about our own opinions. When I became a brony, I looked upon furries as deviant and sexually crazed freaks. How I was socialized and the facade that society taught me about furries was very negative, and I only had mean things to say about them. Yet during my creation of Ballad of the Brony, I saw the same stigmas, prejudice, and discrimination shared between bronies and furries. I was shocked and appalled at my past behavior. My outlook had changed after becoming a brony. When shown in the light of truth, I felt compassion for furries. You may not want to admit it, bronies, but we share a lot of the same struggles as furries, though we differ in a few important ways. But I'll save that discussion for another day. I am not a furry, but I do know furries who are bronies. Don't let haters close your mind to others who have done no wrong to you. Instead, take what you have learned from the Brony Code and apply it in the situation you may find yourself in. If you don't, then you are no better than the hater who's discriminating against you. Don't turn your back on fellow bronies. The final insult we will face is being called socially awkward. This one takes a couple of forms, and doesn't hold too much water. For one, bronies are just the product of modern society, the media, and communication via the internet. Social movements can truly take any form, and bronies are a testament to that. Yet look back years ago, when Star Wars and Star Trek fans were persecuted for enjoying their shows and hobbies. Time has proven mainstream thinkers wrong, as geek culture is openly accepted and willingly practiced by many people from all walks of life. The Super Nintendo was primarily for children and teenagers, but look at the Nintendo Wii today. It's loved by adults from all ages. Modern society can leave quite the mark on a generation of people. Southerners today are much more accepting of blacks than they were 50 years ago. This is because those who froth at the mouth with discriminatory rage have become docile in their elder years or have simply passed away. With each new generation comes social change and acceptance due to the changing environment these children are raised in. But how does this tie back in with bronies? We are simply the products of modern society. We gladly challenge gender roles that decipher what men and women should like. Instead, we believe that a show is good on its own merits, regardless if it's pink or blue. We come now to our last part of the discussion, how to react to haters. There are 3 ways, and I believe most people know them. You could either 1. Ignore the hater completely, 2. React harshly and engage in a pointless argument, or 3. Be pleasant and act kindly to the hater. The first way is pretty self-explanatory. and it's very effective. Haters thrive on attention. Hence the phrase, don't feed the parasites. Oh, the irony that I'm making this video to address the problem in the first place. I swear, I'm just going to indulge them this one time and that's it. Sweet Celestia, the comments in this video are going to be a minefield. Okay, back on topic. In order for there to be an argument, there has to be at least two people. Haters find it difficult to complain when they are arguing with themselves, though I have seen it done before. But for the most part, it's just one negative comment and then they move on with their life. Only when you react to them do they decide to lurk around, and that opens up for the next two courses of action. The second way is to fight back, and I highly recommend that you don't engage in an argument. Okay, let's be honest here. How many times have you seen an online debate end like this? I was wrong, and concede to you in defeat. Clearly you have bested me. In the arena of intellectual combat. Yeah, a pretty rare sight indeed. Humans have been fighting since the very beginning of time. We fight for territory, we fight for positions of power, we fight for money, we fight for partners. We like to fight. Truly, it's our greatest blessing and most terrifying curse. Without our aggressive nature, we would not be the dominant species on the planet. Yet we reap the violent seeds that we sow. Society has improved immensely for some developed cultures, and I much rather prefer fighting people on the internet than in real life. Yet it goes to show that humans still fight, and our pride drives us to go at the throats of even our own brethren. Bronies, social change is very possible, and that is why this final option is the most optimistic yet feasible. Don't hate the hater, but be their friend. As cliche as this might sound, it can work and has the best results. Not only do you stop them from hating, but you gain a friend. What more could you ask for? I have a story for you all. Months ago, around the same time when I was researching Battle of the Brony, I came across a picture of Fluttershy, and above her head was a caption that said, "Violence will not save us." Prior to that finding, I was in an international relations class, where the students and the teacher had a very deep conversation about human nature, war, and death. The pessimistic lesson that was taught to me left me with an empty feeling in my heart. The moment I laid my eyes upon the picture of Fluttershy and the caption, my eyes began to swell with tears. Violence will not save us. It only prolongs our inevitable downfall. There was a certain hater, who shall remain anonymous, who messaged me for about a week with cruel and hateful insults. Yet I never gave in to my primal rage, and instead sought to unlock why this person acted the way he did. Eventually, we were able to relate, as I asked him questions about himself, and he reluctantly gave me the answers. Soon, we were chatting each day on YouTube, and he still messaged me to this day asking questions about MLP episodes, and which ones I recommend for him to watch. Guys, it boils down to being able to relate to that person. Build a bridge to that hater. Be kind and act like a friend to him or her. For all you know, the onslaught of words and hatred might be an outcry for someone to listen to their problem. Haters thrive on attention, so why not give them the positive kind? They might suffer from an abusive family, or be picked on at school. The miracles one can achieve with an open mind and soft words can be very drastic and supportive. So now I'm going to end the episode with this challenge. Some people will hate you for no reason. This is a fact of life. Yet some people act compassionately and friendly out of the goodness of their hearts. My question to you is this: which one do you want to be? I am Saberspark, and this is How to Brony, dealing with haters and trolls.